Hello YouTube and hello Ninth Age community. This is Charles with Evershade Gaming and I'm bringing you another Ninth Age Battle Report. I just went to Battlecry GT in Baltimore, Maryland this last weekend and it was a lot of fun. Chris Mintz put on a great tournament. Chris Mintz is Captain America, captain the USA Team ETC last year if you're not familiar with him. Great guy, love his long hair. And this was an interesting tournament. So this was a 30-man tournament, and I actually have a breakdown of the list. Shout out to Dino for putting this bar graph together. So as you can see, the most popular army at Battlecry GT was Undying Dynasties, of which I ended up playing two of them against. So we had no Vermin Swarms, and we had no Sylvan Elves. Actually, it was a small elf meta, surprisingly. There was 2 Dread Elf lists and 1 Highborn Elf list. So very interesting group of lists. I don't want to go into all the lists in detail. People have already done that. I'll just obviously be going in depth the ones that I played against. Game 1 is very simple. It's a perfect morning. Neither your or your opponent's forces arrive without any hindrances. So it's frontline clash and hold the center for the objective. So, my list is I got a Knight Commander with the Son Style, Potion of Swiftness, Lucky Charm, Lucky Shield on his Barded Warhorse. He's my general. And then I have a Marshal VSB with the Black Helm and just a shield, just kind of very cheap. And then I have a Wizard with the Ring of Fire, Book of Arcane Power, Wizard Master, Path of Pyromancy, and 4 Learned Spells. I love this guy. He was great all weekend. And then I had just a Prelate with the Blessed Armor of Frederick the Great, so he's got that 1-up, and then he's rocking paired weapons. 38 Heavy Infantry with Halberds, full command. 9 Imperial Cavalry with Lances and Shields, full command. And they have, it says the Banner of the Stallion there, but they actually have the gleaming icon. I don't know why I didn't change that for this. That was the list I was planning on running, and then I realized the Banner of Stallion can only be taken on characters, so I had to change that. Then I have 10 State Militia, and I also had a Champion in that unit as well. That's what I dropped when I put the gleaming icon instead of the Banner of Stallion. 4 Knights of the Sun Griffin with Lances and Shields, a Musician, 10 Flagellants, 2 packs of 10 Flagellants, Arcane Engine with the Arcane Shield, love that thing too. And then I have 2 Cannons, a Mortar, and 5 Riders, and the Riders have a Champion with the Repeater Pistol, and the Riders all have Heavy Armor and Repeater and Brace Pistols themselves. Game 1, I played against Sorin Ancients, so he had a Control Lord BSB, and then he's pretty much got 2 of everything left. So he's got 2 Raptor Veterans, he's got 2 things of 20 Sorin Archers, both with Spears, both full command, 2 things of 15 Skinks with Bows, Musician, 2 things of 7 Skink Hunters, Poison Javelin Shield, 2 things of 5 Chameleons, 2 Salamanders, and 2 Stygiosaurs. So it's a 2 theme list, 2, 2, 2, 2. It's actually good because, I mean, it's like, you feel like you killed something and then you're like, oh, he's got another one of those. So I thought it's a decent list. I like the Taurosaurs, but I think the Stygiosaurs are actually pretty sweet with the Toxic Breath weapon. It's good against my list too. The spells I got from Pyromancy were Flaming Sword, Immolation, Pyroclastic Flow, and Scorching Salvo. So all really great spells. Haven't really used Immolation before, but it looks neat. My opponent had 5 spells from Alchemy, so he had the Signature Spell, Word of Iron, Molten Copper, Silver Spear, and Glory of Gold. So all also really great damage spells. So I started off deployment. I picked Tableside, and I ended up dropping after a little bit. Actually, I think we traded about 4 or 5 drops, and then I dropped everything else. So I have Riders on my left, and then my 4 Knights of the Sun Griffin, and then I have 10 Flagellants in the Forest, and you can see my 11 Militia with Bows, and my Wizard Master is in the Militia right now. Next to the Militia are the 38 Heavy Infantry, and I have my Prelate and BSB in there, and then I have my 9 Imperial Cavalry, and then my Knight Commanders in there, a Cannon, the Arcane Engine, and another thing of 10 Flagellants. And the Mortar is behind the Heavy Infantry. For my opponent's deployment, he had his Hunters and his Chameleons over here, next to a Stygiosaur and a Salamander. Next to the Stygiosaur is a block of 20 Saurus. Behind them are 15 Skinks. In the middle there is 7 hunters, and then there's another block of 20 Saurus, 15 skinks behind them, and the Cthulhu Lord is in those skinks. You can see right there in the middle of the picture. And then he's got another salamander next to a big piece of impassable terrain. Behind the impassable terrain is one of his veterans, another Stygiosaur, and 5 chameleons. And his other veteran is in the corner of the one of the 20 blocks. So I vanguard my riders up just a little bit, and he didn't scout anything. So at turn 1, I do steady men on my heavy infantry, and I just push up a little bit. I push up with the flagellants because I want to push them into combat. And then I just, I have range. I have a lot of range with my war machines, so I just kind of sit back. The magic phase was 8 to 5 dice. We both channeled. The first thing I do is do a Scorching Salvo, which my opponent stops, and then I do a Pyroclastic Flow on the Salamander and kill it, and I do a Fireball on the Skinks, and I do pluck 1 wound there. And then shooting phase, one of the cannons does 4 wounds to Stygiosaur, which was awesome, and this cannon misfires, which was okay, because, 1 hit, so, that's pretty good. And then the mortar hits on a 5-up or something like that, and I think does 4 or 5 wounds to that big Blockosaurus. So pretty sweet. 1 wound from the riders over here. Soaring Ancient's turn 1. That Stygiosaur is on 1 wound, so he just flies it up. He's going to try and use the breath weapon, and he just he's a little more apprehensive on that side of the field. His center shifts forward as well, too. And then in the magic phase, it is 4 dice to 2. I let the Molten Copper go, and it kills 1 knight. And then he fails to cast a Quicksilver Lash. In the shooting phase, he kills 1 of my riders. The Stygiosaurus Toxic Breath Weapon kills another 3 knights. EOS Turn 2. I do steady men on my heavy infantry. These flagellants fail to charge and take a couple wounds. And then I also charge my riders at that little block of chameleons, because I was close enough that he couldn't stand to shoot. He elects to flee, and he flees through a couple things, through some passable terrain, through another guy, and then I just fail charge. I also charge the Arcane Engine at the Stygiosaur because, it's got 1 wound, I got impact hits, let's do this. So I did not charge the flagellants. I just took a couple wounds last turn from the shooting. So they march up within 8 inches, and then I'm just kind of shuffling forward again. I feel like I got a lot of range. A little bit worried about the Demigryphs on the right side of the board because he's got that 1 veteran that's pretty tough and a Stygiosaur, and I'm pretty scared of those toxic breath weapons. So I'm kind of holding the knights back a little bit. Magic is 8 dice to 7. I believe I started out with a Scorching Salvo, and I put the attribute on that skink in the picture, but I ended up miscasting. And I killed 5 of my dudes over here. I did do a little bit of damage to the Saurus all over the place. And then I also did a Pyroclastic Flow, and I killed some more Saurus. And then this cannon misfired in the shooting phase. And the Arcane Engine killed the Stygiosaur. That's pretty much the end of EOS turn 2. Soaring Ancients turn 2. My opponent gets both of these charges off. So he charges with the Stygiosaur, needing an 11, makes it on the Swiss Stride, and then he needs a 10 with his veteran, and he makes it too. So Knights of Sun Griffin are in for a good fight, and then he moves up to start poisoning the Arcane Engine, and then all tentatively still pushing forward. Magic is 10 dice to 6, so he does a Quicksilver Lash, but I stop that, and then he gets a Molten Copper through and kills 2 knights, and then he gets Quicksilver Lash on my general. I use the Lucky Shield. And then I stop the 2+ armor save, Word of Iron, on the Stygiosaur. In the shooting phase, he gets 3 poisons on the Arcane Engine, which is no bueno. And then in close combat, the Knights of Sun Griffin start off in the 2 wounds to the Stygiosaur. The Stygiosaur does 2 wounds back, and the Scarvet does another 2 wounds, 2 or 3 wounds. But I'm steadfast, and I stick in the combat. So that's pretty good. And then EOS turn 3, I charge my flagellants into one of the Caimans, charge my altar into one of the hunter units. My knights fail a charge on the hunter unit, unfortunately. I was going to put them in together, and then I just kind of move up, starting to really push my halberdiers forward. I've got the flagellants right in front of the Saurus, so I'm thinking they're gonna hold up that block for a couple rounds of combat at least. Nothing eventful happens in the magic phase, but in the shooting phase, the mortar hits the unit with the Slann and the Skinks, and they flee. I mean, I'd kill like half of the Skinks, and they flee, and they actually cause another unit of Saurus to flee too, so got a little bit of panic in the Saurian Ancients ranks. The flagellants blow through the chameleons, no problem. The arcane engine beats the hunters, but can't pursue them down. And over here, the knights kill off the Stygiosaur, and they lose one more knight. He does like only one wound. He actually loses combat, but the veteran holds. I think he needed a 6, so not too hard on cold-blooded to hold on. Saurian Ancient, turn 3, he charges the Saurus into the flagellants. They could not see the halberdiers, and then he uses the salamander to chaff my knights. And he does rally all of his blocks, which is good. The match phase is 6 dice to 3. He kills another 2 knights with Quicksilver Lash. I stopped Quicksilver Spear on my general though. And then in the combat phase, the knights can't do any wounds to the veteran, unfortunately. The cold one does, the raptor does 1 wound, and then they ended up breaking this round of combat, and the veteran pursues them down. In the flagellant combat, however, the flagellants go first at initiative 3, and I believe they killed 8 Saurus before the Saurus got to strike, which was amazing. And then the Saurus go, and they killed, looks like 5. So, pre-even return, they're stuck in there. EOS turn 4. I charge my arcane engine at the hunters. They rallied the previous turn, and I was thinking I'll go get them again. But as I was declaring it, my opponent immediately kind of was like, all right, poison shots. And I was like, oh, wait, it's in a field. Like, I'm going to take DTs. And by the time I was like, hey, can I pull this back? He already did 2 wounds with poison. I rolled my armor saves. It died. And I was like, whatever. It happens. It's dead. So, unfortunately, Arcane Engine dies on the charge. Magic is 4 dice to 3. I do a Pyroclastic Flow on the Slans unit. I pretty much kill all the Slinks in there. And then the shooting phase, cannon hits and does 3 wounds to that guy. Both cannons hit, wounded, but the second cannon he passed the 4 board save. I thought I was getting some hot dice. I mean, the dice were hot this game, but I was getting pretty excited here. And the mortar was so good this game. The mortar hit every turn except 1. And it hit the Saurus block, and he's got that calf character in there, so I'm able to pick the calf character out. So I've actually been targeting that Saurus unit all game, and I finally... there was one time I got 1 wound through. This time I hit wounded. He failed his 4 armor saves, 4 forward, and I just did 2 more wounds. So I kill his Saurus character, and I do another 3-4 wounds to the unit, which was awesome. My heavy infantry charge some skink chaff. They take a couple wounds, they clear out the rest of the skinks, and then they reform like so. The flagellants do another 3 wounds to the Saurus, but the Saurus actually they might have done 4 wounds, but the Saurus kill the rest of the flagellants. So start of Saurian Ancients turn 4. This is the only picture I have for this turn. I don't think he had an eventful magic phase. It looks like he got 5 to 3 dice. Oh, this is actually really sad. He got a 6 silver spear off, probably on my general, but he rolled a 1 to wound. So either I couldn't stop that or something like that. But basically during his turn, he hides the veteran character behind that hill. He actually was he was gonna go for my war machines, but he put it into the forest, and I was like, my cannons ignore soft and hard cover. And he's like, oh, really? And he also took a dangerous terrain test, and he failed it. So he had only 2 wounds left on that guy. So I was like, if you want, he asked if he could take it back, and I allowed him to take it back. So he just puts that guy behind the hill, and yeah, that's pretty much all that happens during Saurian Ancients turn 4. EOS turn 5, steady men on the heavy infantry. Sometimes I forget to take my order pictures, and then it looks like this. So I actually move my knight commander up to kind of I think he can take those 6 swords pretty easily, even though they have spears. And then I'm trying to keep my scoring units alive. I only got the heavy infantry and the 1 Imperial Cavalry left, so he's kind of hiding behind my heavy infantry right now. The magic phase is 8 dice to 6, and I start with the Scorching Salvo. So I got the Skinks, the 2 Source units, and then afterwards, no more Skinks. The Source block took, I think, just 1 more wound, and then both of them took just about 1 wound. And then in the shooting phase, this cannon uses its, I want to say Grape Shot so bad, but I can't say Grape Shot. It's a volley gun function, and it just it blows apart the rest of the Source, which is good because they were a scoring unit, had to get rid of it. The mortar hits the Slans unit and like rips through a bunch more Skinks, but they pass their panic test. And then Sword Ancient turn 5, he kills my Imperial Cavalry during the magic phase, causes a panic test on my wizards. I feel like this is a really bad picture, and it looks like they should have fled through the cannon, but it was just with that dangerous terrain thing. They were definitely like an inch away. It just kind of felt like that with the terrain piece. EOS turn 6. Knight Commander goes into the Source. He's going to mop them up, hopefully. And then it just kind of looks like this. Got my Wizard rallied and everything. And in the close combat phase, it goes well. The Knight Commander hits like 3 of his attacks, which was awesome. The Soaring Ancients go, and they don't do any damage to him, but they do pass their break test. Soaring Ancient turn 6, he challenges me with his champion, which I probably should have killed him the previous turn. I actually only hit once with the Sonstal, so I just did 1 wound, and he passed the break test again. And then this is where he moved up at the end of the turn, and that's the ending game shot. And this was a really fun game. It ended up being pretty close. I thought I was going to do a little bit better, but he had 1 Skink alive, and it was able to get within 6 inches of the center of the board. If that's the yellow arrow, you can barely see it. It's just hiding behind that fence. But with that 1 Skink, he had 1 scoring unit left, and I only had the 1 scoring unit left, so we tied on objective. So it ends up being it's a 1,028 point battle difference, victory point difference, which is a 13-7. But then we tie an objective, so it stays at 13-7. So this was a fun game. I thought most of the things went pretty well for me. The only thing looking back that I should have done, other than maybe pick out the champion with the Knight Commander, although he didn't even hit with all his attacks, so that wouldn't have mattered. I should have flown the heavy infantry 20 models wide, because it's not like anything was charging them. Should have flown them 20 models wide, and then just zoned out the center of the board, and been 6 inches away from it, so that he had to be more than an inch away from me, and he couldn't get the objective. That's the only thing that I'm kicking myself. I thought about that as soon as the game was done. I was like, oh, why didn't I do that? That would have been so good. But this was a fun game, and I want to thank everybody for watching, and I'll have more Battle Cry reports up soon. Have a good one.